What's up, ladies and gents? This is Casey Kid coming at you with another Destiny video. Today it's Sunday, so we're doing our weekly Q&A session. If you've got a question that you would potentially like to see me answer next week in next week's video, go ahead and leave it in the comments section below. If you enjoy this video, go ahead and smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. So we're just playing a little bit of salvage today. We've got our Necrochasm on. Still working on a Necrochasm video that I've got in store. But we're playing around with the Necrochasm, getting some clips, playing some salvage because I think I was also doing it for Lord Shax's bounties. I was thinking about potentially doing the Nightfall video today, but I still didn't do the Nightfall yet. So I'm not really sure if I'm actually going to be able to get into the Nightfall or not this week, because Iron Banner's coming out on Tuesday, so I'm not really sure when a Nightfall video would actually fall in place before Iron Banner comes out, and we have to do that, because then we also have the Bungie reveal on Wednesday. It's going to be a pretty busy week. But anyway, let's go ahead right into our questions. We've got Melissa asking, when do you sleep? And that's a really good question, because the answer is not much at all. I don't really sleep much at all during the week, and that's pretty bad. You definitely do not want to run your schedule like I do. It is not good, and it's probably not healthy. It is probably not healthy at all. I would say during the week, I go to bed sometime after midnight and before 1 o'clock, most of the time. And that sounds probably normal, that probably sounds early to some people, except for the fact that my alarm then goes off at 5:30 in the morning to wake up and start getting ready to go to work. So I don't sleep much at all during the week, and it's bad. It's really not a good thing, and it's really a little bit of a dangerous thing, because my commute on my way home is really long, and it involves sitting in a lot of traffic, and oftentimes it makes me feel really tired, to the fact that I'm driving home and I'm punching myself in the leg, or I'm pinching myself, or I'm doing anything I can to stay awake. And yeah, that is really scary. I do not recommend doing that at all for anyone. What I'm starting to do is try to at least bring a little bit of pop or something to work, and then I drink that a little bit to try to get a little bit of caffeine, so when I'm riding home, I'm not actually falling asleep. I'm staying awake just a little bit. But what I really need to do is I need to start training myself to not catch up on all my sleep on the weekend and start getting to bed a little bit earlier during the week. The best laid plans of mice and men, though. You know, we'll have to wait and see. Our next question comes from Cam Does Cod asking, do you think they should bring back primary elemental burns? And he's talking about some of the different percentages, though I do think that some of these percentages are whenever the primary burns were coming with burns on a Nightfall, and you were getting that really high damage against enemies. So the reason that Bungie took out primary burn weapons is because everybody was basically running around with them. They would come on the raid weapons, and they would be legendary, and Bungie felt that everybody was then just shoehorned into using the same weapons over and over again in PvE. And they're right. They're definitely right, because why would you want to put on a normal kinetic damage weapon when you could put something on that has arc burn, or solar burn, or void burn, and be able to take down the enemy shields that much easier, because there was no penalty for having a burn on your weapon. If you were rocking out a solar weapon, you could go ahead and still shoot an arc burn or void burn shield and take it down just with normal damage. You weren't being penalized or anything. So how could they go about fixing this? Well, they could do one of two things. First, they could do a rock, paper, scissors type of deal, where against one shield, you get the extra damage, against a second shield, you get normal damage, and against a third shield, you get reduced damage. That is a possibility. It would be a little bit tricky to start adding in right now. I don't think people would really go for that. I don't think they would go for that. My opinion is that maybe they should start putting these on exotic primary weapons. I understand not wanting to put it on legendary weapons. I would love it to be back on legendary weapons. I like having the burns. Again, I don't think you can ever really be too broken in PvE. It's a lot different than PvP, but in PvE, I think it's okay to be overpowered, so I would love to have it back. But I recognize that if you put a burn on a legendary weapon, that's a primary, everybody's going to be using it. There's no reason to use an exotic weapon whenever you can get a legendary weapon that has a burn on it and then put on an exotic special or exotic heavy weapon. So what I think, in order to make exotics feel exotic, which is something that I feel should always happen, it should always be the case that exotics feel awesome. I think exotic primary weapons should have burns on them, or something extra as far as elemental goes. For instance, we have the thorn with the burn actually on it. Not an elemental burn, but just normal burn. And I like that. But I think that these other exotic primary weapons should have burns, and I think that's a nice way to even it out. For instance, we've got the Zalos Supercell that has an arc burn, and that's amazing. It helps to make the Zalos Supercell feel worthwhile. It makes it feel worthwhile, and I think that's what the other weapon should have. And it doesn't break PvE by any stretch. We should at least have a solar, and we should at least have a void primary exotic weapon that has a burn. And yes, we have the Mythoclast, but you can't really use the Mythoclast in your high-end PvE gameplay right now because it's not year 2. So that's my opinion on that, and let's move on to question number 3. With question number 3, John's asking me about my gear, about which legendary or exotic gear I'm really looking for. And as I go back and think about everything, I have all the exotics in the game right now. Every exotic in the game, I have it, so there's really nothing there that I'm actually looking for, but I'm definitely looking for legendary weapons. I was out on the hunt for the Grasp of Malak. I'd really like to get that, not necessarily to use it because I'm really bad with these fast rate of fire pulse rifles, but just to have it in my collection. The things that I'm looking for to actually use though is the Arminius D with counterbalance. I'm definitely looking for that. I have 3 gunsmith packages just sitting in wait for the gunsmith to bring some decent rolls on the Arminius. He has not brought it yet, which has made me frustrated because I don't have much vault space to begin with, but definitely looking for the Arminius with counterbalance, and to go with that, a Doctrine with counterbalance. I have an Adept Doctrine, I think I have 2 Adept Doctrines, and a couple non-Adept versions. None of them have counterbalance though. None of them have counterbalance, which is a shame because that is definitely what I want. I really like those auto rifles and I really want to use them. Also, I did pick up 1 Ufern package. I'd like to get that roll that has Luck in the Chamber and Small Bore. Small Bore and Luck in the Chamber sounds like it would be pretty nice. Give me that potential to 2-shot an enemy. I'm not really great with hand cannons right now because of the way that they actually are in the game. But I'd still like to get one because you never know when hand cannons are going to get buffed again. In fact, in 2 weeks when Bungie has its next reveal stream, we might find out that hand cannons sound like they're going to be awesome, as long as they don't get a 0.04% buff. As long as they don't get that, they might turn out to be pretty good. Moving on to our next question, we've got Jack asking me about my favorite gun of all time, year 1 or 2, primary, special, and heavy. So what I think I'm going to do is actually make a complete loadout. An actual in-game loadout. And every gun, it's actually going to come from year 1. Because I was using these guns constantly. In year 2, because of the way that the game is, I change out my weapons all the time. But in year 1, it was Fatebringer, I loved the Fellwinter's Lie, and I loved my Yalahorn. With those 3, I was in good shape to deal with anything. The Fatebringer was absolutely amazing, and by far the primary that I used the most in year 1. I only ever got 1 Fatebringer. And I loved it. I loved it. It was amazing on Arc Nightfalls, especially with the explosive rounds where you could basically do some area of effect damage on all the enemies and deal out some really nice damage. Quick reloads with the Outlaw, yes, very nice. And my Fellwinter's Lie that had Luck in the Chamber and Shot Package, and it was void. It helped me go to the back of the Vault of Glass and clear out all of those Minotaurs. And of course, the Yalahorn. Give me a break. By far the best gun that's ever been in Destiny. Yes, that would probably be my favorite weapons and favorite loadout. Now we're moving on to our title question, the big one, from the EHV Music, asking about microtransactions in Destiny. But he's taking it a little bit further. He's not talking about the emotes. He's not talking about what we actually see in the Eververse Trading Company. He's talking about microtransactions that you would buy that would actually affect the game. So weapons or armor, exotic subclasses, which exotic subclasses just sounds amazing, period. I think we talked about that the last time. Exotic subclasses sound amazing. But whenever you get into that pay-to-win arena, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. So I do agree with EHV Music that I personally would not want to see it. I've played my share of quote-unquote free-to-play games, and I've got hooked in them. I've even paid for some of them. And I always hate myself after playing those games, and especially after paying money into those games, because by far, most of those games are not made well. They're not made well as far as the game design perspective goes. Typically, those games involve paying money to buy premium currency, and then using that premium currency to buy some type of lottery package that has extremely low chances to win for whatever you're actually aiming for, whether it be gear or an ability or whatnot. And yeah, those are always rough. They're so rough because you never know if those companies are going to be able to stay afloat, if they're going to one day just wake up and completely change the gameplay mechanics of the game, which happens a lot. A lot of times these are smaller companies that are just trying to make a buck, to stay afloat, to support their families. I can understand that, but they take away the fun of the game and make it more about making money. And I think whenever you start doing that, you lose a little bit about what games are about. And I don't think Bungie and Destiny is going to be in a situation like that, because right now, with the Eververse Trading Company, people are buying the emotes. They're buying the emotes. They were buying the packages to get different sparrows, things that aren't actually affecting the game at all. And people are buying them. People are buying them, and I think that's at least generating the revenue that's going to help Bungie keep things up, like the servers, like the live team, like the updates that all cost money. None of this stuff is free that we're playing. It all costs money to actually continually create, and people have salaries at Bungie, and they deserve to be paid. But I don't think they're going to be at the stage where they need to sell weapons to generate that money, because the game is doing well enough as it is. So that's a good thing, and that's definitely what you want to hope for. You don't want your company to get into a situation where you feel like you have to actually sell winning the game in order to stay afloat, because once you do that, you're in a slippery slope and your game is probably going to fail. So anyway, guys and gals, if you've got a comment for next week, leave it in the question section below, or reverse that. Smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out these awesome videos. Good luck with your raids, your drops, the Taken King, and I'll see you around in Destiny. Paying to win. Paying to win.